Hello, good morning, everyone. You're welcome to our channel. The name of our channel is Football and Fantasy, and we'll be discussing mainly on this channel on football, especially Premier League football, because that's what we watch around here. At the same time, we give you great news from other leagues and other competition as well, especially Champions League. Nobody misses Champions League, right? Europa sometime. So generally, we'll be giving you football news. At the same time, we're going to be giving you some tips on how to set up your fantasy. I know some people are excited to hear that already. I'm a fantasy lover. I play basically Premier League fantasy, a CPL fantasy football, and I play Champions League fantasy football as well. So we'll be discussing mainly on those two. I'll be giving you major tips on how to go about your team. I don't know how you set up your team already. I know we're starting late. We should have started this earlier, but I can just tell there's still time because transfer window just closed. A lot of people want to use their wild card to get good players in, especially coming in after the international break that we'll soon have next month or so. So we want to make sure that we make use of a wire card judiciously. Somebody like me, I always wait for the right time, and I will tell you all about when it is right to use your wild card. Do you understand me? Yeah, moving forward, let's talk about EPL football fantasy, okay? And I think we're on game week 7 now. We're going to game week 7 starting Saturday. We're going to start game week 7. We're pretty late, but then it's better late than never. We're planning to do this, but due to one thing or the other, we had some procrastination opening up this channel, having to put one or two things in place. Then I just said we have to just get started because I can't wait to share my tips because I'm actually, since I started playing FPL, I've always been top 100,000. I know you mean 100,000 is much, but then that's like 7, 8 years in a row of top 100. I got close to top 1,000 once before. So I think I have a lot of clue that I can give you. And who says you can be better than me? You can. So sometimes a mixture of experience, experience and luck, do you get, especially when it comes to picking your game week captain. A lot of people go for the big names every time, but that's not. Get all that in place. We'll talk about all that in a minute. So, what is fantasy? Fantasy football is this arrangement that has been set up by the transition of Premier League, of course, by some group of individuals. To be like a game that people play to enjoy their game. It makes you want to watch match even more. Like I hardly miss any match as I am. Even when we're having a good rush or something, I still switch the channels to check what's going on here, take 5 minute time in here. So I'm a football lover. I watch almost every matches. Do you get so? Fantasy football makes you want to watch football. You want, especially if you have a team, if you have a player in the team that is playing, you want to watch how your player will do. I can't even miss a match that my captain is in, no matter what. I can't. I can't miss it. So I'm that much of a fantasy freak. Anyways, let's get right into it. How do you set up your team? I'm going to do another video basically on how to set up your team, but I'll just give you a brief illustration of how you can go about it. Beginners don't know. When I started FPL as well, I didn't get to know this my first game week. I got an idea of this second game week because the person that introduced fantasy to me, I've been hearing it a lot over the years, but I've not really paid attention. I've not had time. That I didn't used to watch match that much, but at least I watched my favorite team. I know you want to know my favorite team. I'm not going to tell you that yet, but my favorite team is in England, and definitely going to tell you as time goes on. So stay tuned. Anyway, so I didn't get to know this earlier, my first game week, but I got told the second game week that this is what you do, what you do. Why didn't you tell me at first? You're allowed to make your mistake, then learn from it. So as you go about setting up your team, if this information is not useful for you this season, I'm sure it'll be useful for you next season. And Champions League Fantasy just started. You can still set up your team now and still like meet up with some people. A lot of people actually. If you're lucky with your captains, lucky with the players you choose, you can actually still catch up with a lot of people. Do you understand? So I've had somebody that joined fantasy the second game week and finished top 10,000. That's true. That's the truth. So a lot of people are doing well in fantasy, and actually, there's a lot of prices. Unfortunately for me, guys, I've actually never had a chance of winning a weekly prize before. No matter what, I always come close. Maybe sometimes I've had a game week that was like top 10, yet I didn't get to make it to that first to get the prize for the week. So there are different prices for per game week, different prices for overall winner in a month, winner of a game week, then overall winner for the whole season. A lot of prices. We'll talk about that in a separate video when I'm doing introduction to fantasy, how you properly set up your team and plan ahead. I will break that down in that video and as well tell you the prices attached to each game week. You can also read it online on fantasy football, fantasy Premier League football. You can always go ahead and read it. You see the prices. So yeah, we're playing it for fun. It's actually so much fun, especially if you join interesting league where there's so much competition with your friends and family and social media. Yeah, it's a lot of what's it called? Twitter group that's for fantasy. I'll give you tips on how to enjoy yourself. If you want to join fantasy and actually enjoy it, I will give you tips on that as well in the separate video that I'll be posting later. Now, a brief illustration on how you should set up your team. Starting from goalkeeper. Goalkeeper are not that important. Let me just tell you that. They are not that important. So you don't want to be spending too much. You're going to be given 100 million pounds to buy players. You're going to buy 15 players with this 100 million. You understand what I mean? Like you're going to buy 11 starting players, that is one goalkeeper, 10 players. You're going to have 10 players on the bench as well as one goalkeeper on the bench. So altogether, you're going to be buying 15 players with this 100 million. I know you feel like 100 million is much, man. Nothing you can do with that. No, it's not gonna be enough by the time you start. Now, normally, what you want to do is you want to set up your team. You want to buy the best goalkeeper, the best defenders, the best midfielders, that's what you're thinking as a beginner. That's what is in your head as you're going through the website or through the app. You want to set up your team. That's what you're thinking, but it's not going to be possible. I can assure you of that. For instance, let me bust your bubble for you. You want to have KDB in your midfield. A lot of people want to have KDB in their midfield. You want to have Mo Salah. You want to have Son in your midfield. You're getting me right. Some might even want to have Bruno. I can assure you, no matter how you set up your team, you can't have 3 of these guys in your team. If you do, you're not going to have a decent team at all. Even if you have 2 of them, you still need to. It will still affect several other places. Is that your defense or your forward? It's going to affect majorly how you set up your team. So how do you set up your fantasy generally? So you go for a keeper in a mid-table team. Let's say Brighton, for instance. We'll have Sanchez. Sanchez is a decent goalkeeper. He's actually is a catch for 4.5 million. So for every player in Premier League, there's a price tag. If you don't know, there's a price tag attached to each player. that you have to buy them, and all this money will come from your 100 million. If you must spend exactly 100 million to get your team or less. You can't spend above, it will not accept it. So how do you go about it? You pick an average goalkeeper. If you want, you can also pick an expensive goalkeeper, fine, that's your choice. But like I said, every choice you make will affect your future plans while you're setting up your team. You will see everything. You have a 4.5 million goalkeeper, for instance. You want to have decent defenders. Now, before the first season started, I had Reece James. Reece James is 6.0 million. Do you get? So what I'm saying basically is that you're going to have to set up your team according to the prices. And I don't even want to go into this detail here. Like I said, I'm going to do another video to illustrate how all this money are put and how you can actually spend this money judiciously and you still have about 1 million or 500,000 pounds remaining in your bank, because you want to keep something. If possible, you want to keep something in case you need to swap players every game week. Do you get? Because you're going to be having one free transfer every single game week, so you need that to grow your team. You have to be very smart about what you're buying or not, and you don't have to use it. You can accumulate it up to 2 transfers, but you must use it at that time. If you don't, you can't accumulate more than 2 transfer at a go. So another overview I would like you to know, part of the overview of a fantasy setup, apart from the prices, that you have to be calculative about it. Get a decent goalkeeper, 2 decent goalkeeper at 4.5, or you get a 5.0 goalkeeper and a 4.5 goalkeeper. That's what I would do. I don't want to be spending too much money on my goalkeeper, because once a goal goes in, clean sheet is gone. So it doesn't matter if it's Allison or Ederson. Once a goal goes in like this, clean sheet is gone. So you can as well pick mid-table teams that they normally at least try to keep. Like Brighton are difficult. They are very good at their back, at the defense. So it's not easy for them. It's not easy to score goals against Brighton. So Sanchez will go a long way in making your budget fit. Anderson of Nottingham Forest too. Those are my 2 goalkeepers this for the start of this season. And as season goes on, as things get more serious, gets underway and all, I get a more serious goalkeeper, then keep Sanchez or Anderson. One of them gets like 5.0. But for now, I'm going to go with these 2 and see how well they perform over the season. They've been doing well for me so far. This is game week 7. I've had how many clean sheets so far? Even when Anderson doesn't keep clean sheet, he gets to keep a penalty. At least it's kept like 2 penalties this season already. It's massive bonus point from saves as well. That's one thing about buying mid-table keepers. They get to make enough saves because they keep shots out a lot. So they get to make enough saves, and every 3 saves a keeper makes is 1 point. So clean sheets is 4 points for the defense and the keeper. But if the keeper makes up to 3 saves in a match, that's 1 point. If he makes up to 6 saves, that's another 1 point, making 2. If he makes 9 saves, that's 3 points. So like that, upward. If he makes 12 saves, that's 4 points. So as for the keeper, for the defense, they get to keep clean sheet at 60 minutes. That's when if a player stays on the pitch for 59 minutes and is being subbed off, he's not going to get a clean sheet point. He's also going to get 1 point, because it is this 1 hour mark that marks that a player has played and deserved to earn a clean sheet. Generally, for all players, you start a match, that's 1 point. You played up to 60 minutes in one match, that's 2 points for everybody. Every player. You play up to 60 minutes or more, that's 2 points. But if you don't play up to 60 minutes, it is only 1 point. Even if it's 59.9 points, or 9 minutes rather, or 59.59 minutes, You get what I mean, right? 59 minutes point 59 seconds you played, and it just didn't turn to that 60 when you walked out the pitch. Then you are not getting the 60 minutes second point. And at that second point, and that 60 minutes as well, that is when defenders get to get their points, their 4 points for clean sheet. That is if they have not considered a goal yet throughout the match. So, but if they still concede after the 60 minutes, the point is going to be dropped to their normal ones. For every 2 goals, defenders and keepers concede, that's the -1 as well. That's one thing about defender. So you're not going to want to buy a defender that does not yield points for you. What do I mean by that? I mean, for beginners, what they normally do is you want to set up your team. Like when I started to, nobody told me anything for that first game week. So I bought 2 central backs. Like I set up like a normal manager, normal real life manager will set up a team. My 4-4-4-3-3 was complete. I had 2 central backs, one left back, one right back, and I had my DM. I had my 2 midfielders, 2 progressive midfielders. Then I had my 3 forwards. No, that's not how it works for fantasy actually. In fantasy, what you do about your defense is you want to pick defenders that have high rate of goal contribution. What do I mean by that? I mean they regularly supply assists from their record from the past. Somebody like Trent Alexander-Arnold of Liverpool and Robertson, somebody like Rhys James of Chelsea, Chilwell. You get what I mean? Like they constantly supply assists. Cancelo of Man City. You want to buy defenders, so you can actually pick 4 left back for your defense. Nobody cares as far as fantasy is concerned. You can pick 4 right backs. You can pick 2 right backs, 2 left back, and if you have a center half, the reason center halves are not advisable is because they don't often go forward to contribute to any goals, except if there is a corner or free kick they get to head. Somebody like Van Dijk now normally scores with his head, so you might want to consider him, but it's not every time he scores. But a left back or a right back can supply assist at any moment in the match. So I always buy left backs and right backs for my defense. So however I see it, deem it fit at the same time considering my budget, I pick probably one expensive right back or left back, then 2 mid average right back or mid or left back, anyone. Then I have one low budget as well that will probably be sitting on the bench because eventually every game week you're still going to be having 3 bench. 3 bench means that what they are there for is in case one player from your team main selection is not going to feature for that game week, then it's going to be substituted for a player from your bench. You understand? So automatically after the game week, it's just going to be substituted for a player on your bench. So you want to have at least 1 or 2 good players on your bench as well. So don't spend all your money equipping your first team. In case one player doesn't play, you have to go back to the mediocre you have on your bench. So you have to balance everything. So have at least 1 or 2 good players on your bench that can give you points every game week. So that's how it works. And for midfielders, if the team keeps clean sheets, midfielder gets to get 1 point. Defender gets 4 points for clean sheets. The keeper also gets 4 points. Every player gets 2 points for playing up to 60 minutes or more, or 90 or more. Once you play 60 minutes plus or 60 minutes exactly, you get 2 points. So on top of that, defenders get 4 points, like I said, for keeping clean sheets. Midfielder gets 1 point for keeping clean sheet. Forwards doesn't get anything. These are the score goals, and their point is not deducted as well. Whether they keep clean sheet or not, it doesn't affect them. Or midfielders, if you don't keep clean sheet, you don't get that extra 1 point. And defenders, if you don't keep clean sheet, you don't get your 4 points. So you're only going to get 2. And if you get a yellow card, that's a -1 for any player on the pitch. right? A goalkeeper or a forward or midfielder, any player at all. If you pick a player that gets yellow card regularly, you're going to be constantly getting a -1 from that player. That's how it is for fantasy. If you get it red, it's straight red, it's -3. The same thing, and the player miss 3 game weeks, at least 3 matches. You play 3 matches. So player get a straight red. There's 2 yellows, I think it's just 1 game you miss and plays again. You don't want to have a player that will get a red and not play for 3 game weeks. You have to sell in case you have a player like that. You may have to sell the player and probably buy the player back later, because immediately he gets a straight red, a lot of fantasy managers will sell the player off. And if you have a drastic reduction of players, the managers patronizing a particular player, then the price will start dropping. And you don't want your players to devaluate. For instance, what I mean by that is you bought a player for £6 million or £10 million, for instance. If FPL managers, let's say 20% of them decide to sell that player because he got a red or it's not giving them enough point, the price will start dropping from that 10 million. Might be 9.9 or up to 9.8. So if he doesn't do well or he doesn't get to start matches, points keep dropping. But if he does well, if he keeps clean sheet as a keeper or a defender, or if he score goals as a forward, the price increases as well, because a lot of FPL player wants to buy such player. Example of this is Mitrovic. If you check Mitrovic was 6.0, I guess, and now maybe it's around, or 6.5. I think 6.0 or 6.5. Check Mitrovic now. Mitrovic price would have gone up like with 3 or 4 more million pounds, or hundreds of £1,000s on it. A player could increase from over these over the span of one season. Player could increase to almost £1 million. Like from 6.0, player could go to 7.0, 7.5 million at sometimes. So it depends on how well the player is performing. When I keep performing constantly, the price keeps going up. Some used to be about 10 point something or 9 point something million before, but now he got a golden boot last season together with Salah, and before you know it, this season his price is 12 million. Even if he hasn't gotten a goal this season, if you check Son's price now, would have gone down. At this game week 7 I'm recording this video, if you check his price, it would have gone down from 12 million to about maybe 11.8 or 11.9, because he's not been scoring goals, not been giving any assists. So that's how FPL works. Pick your team, make sure you pick two decent goalkeepers, because you want to be swapping them as game weeks goes on. Maybe this keeper has a difficult game. If he's playing Man City, for instance, and the other one is playing Nottingham Forest or Crystal Palace, you want to use the one that's playing Crystal Palace. Most times I go with my guts. One that plays Man City can end up keeping out a penalty or making a lot of saves when you know it. So, as you want to be diplomatic, at the same time you follow your guts. Sure, you get. If you are playing a team that scores a lot of goals, you don't want to use that player for that game week, because definitely it's not going to get a clean sheet. If you have a situation that your two keepers are playing difficult teams, then you just have to pick one. Go with your guts then. So these are the tips. Then set up your defense: one premium defenders, two average defenders, then maybe two low